And welcome to Down the Alley. This is Ted T. Esperides,
And Katie.
and we are without our fearless leader, PMAC, for the time being. He is at a meeting that is running late, so we're going to get started and get kicked off here, and he will hopefully be joining us shortly. Um,
Did
section
you click
7,
go live?
yes, I did. We are live. Section 7 tonight. It is, we're getting closer now. The last two sections, it feels weird that we're already in section 7. The season is so close at this point where um, it kind of just feels like we just started doing this. So, of course, our show is brought to you by Old Southern Barbecue. I just found out tonight that I am hosting Easter for my wife's side of the family. So
Ooh,
I will be taking advantage of that Easter ham that they have going on. If it's the same ham as the Christmas ham, we will definitely be in for a real treat. So, um,
you're a big fan of that.
yeah, it was really good. I don't eat ham a lot. Um,
I've I've been getting I go really like hot and cold with it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just if I have like like if I'm eating breakfast somewhere, I'm getting
Ham for
bacon.
sure.
I'm
Oh,
getting
well, like
bacon
at
or
home.
no, if like I'm eating breakfast, like go out for a brunch or something, I'm getting like a traditional like American breakfast. I'm getting bacon or sausage. I'm not usually getting ham. I know English breakfast is generally maybe it's ham or maybe it's sausage. I don't know.
I think
But
it's sausage.
long
They
story
don't like
short,
have ham over there.
long story short, I don't eat ham a ton. So when like generally it's at occasions like holidays, like a Christmas or a Thanksgiving or an Easter. So, but we did a Christmas ham, Old Southern Barbecue. It was super easy. You just, you go, you grab it. It's already made, and then you just reheat it. Or I guess some people might eat it cold too. I guess you could probably do that. But you reheat it. It comes with like this glaze that goes over it. It's like a
Ooh,
mustard,
that sounds
brown
good.
sugar type deal. Really good. It was a crowd pleaser. It wasn't too off the rails, spicy or anything like that. So, and it was like a good amount of food, and you get corn with it, creamed corn and corn muffins as well. So, and then I think they're also doing a partnership with Lunds and Byerly's
Mm.
where they are doing like you get a French silk pie or an apple pie
Oh
with
wow.
the meal as well. So kind of a cool like Minnesota company partnership there. So definitely check that out. If that's something, if you're hosting or you think you might be roped into hosting, it's an easy way to get the food taken care of.
I think this is a blanket statement, but I think I only like deli ham, like
Fair enough.
thin ham,
Yeah.
but I like chunks of ham cold.
Hmm.
So, like, I like a sliced ham, like, on an egg sandwich. Like, if I'm making an egg sandwich, I'm not making, like, 1 piece of bacon. I've been known to do that, but I like to buy, like, deli ham, and I'm very picky about my deli meat, like, no nitrates, and I try not to get any sugar in it either, which is really hard to find in deli meat because obviously it's
Yeah.
processed.
Yeah.
But I did find the Whole Foods brand. I know this is super bougie, but the Whole Foods brand deli meat, like their 365 brand, is really good and it's not too
Hmm.
expensive because I was just at a different grocery store buying sliced turkey, and I'm not kidding you, it was $9.
Hmm.
And I thought that was outrageous. But I like having ham for like, I don't know, cut it up and cube it up in my scrambled eggs or
Yeah.
put one
Ham and cheese.
slice, a hot ham and cheese. I texted you that one day. I was really into a hot ham and cheese sandwich there for a while with like sourdough and Havarti cheese, but I do like a ham steak chunk cold, but
Hmm.
I don't really like it hot. So like I've looked at those like ham, what would you call a ham hock? Is it a ham hock?
I don't
Like
know. Yeah.
like that you would get. I've looked at those at Costco and being like, "Oh, we could slice our own or something like that." And I've looked at those to buy and I've never done it. But I think a leftover chunk of ham on like a sandwich the next day
Hmm.
after a holiday with like leftover cheesy potatoes on like maybe like a dinner roll is like really American of us. Like it is,
Yeah.
if you're not making a ham sandwich with leftover cheesy potatoes, the ones with the cornflakes on top, after Easter, on Easter Monday, like
Yeah.
don't even celebrate Easter. Christ did not rise then if you're not
Yeah.
eating that ham sandwich, because
Yeah.
that is good.
Yeah.
But I don't like it hot. But I don't like it hot.
I can't disagree with you. It's good in you know, in small doses, I guess, not something you want to eat all
Yeah,
the time, but nonetheless, if you're interested in ham at your Easter
you have to.
situation, yeah, you can go to Old Southern Barbecue and grab it. DTA 15. Use that for any rubs and sauces that you need, and they'll take care of you. I realized we are live. It is working, but I just realized that I copied the last week's settings so that we have the same settings in the live stream, and it does say episode 134, section 6. We are doing section 7. I
Yep.
don't know if I can actually change that on the fly. So if anybody's watching, I apologize for the kind of the misleading, I
I
guess.
don't think anyone's
Yeah.
watching.
Yeah, I think it says two people are. I
It's
guess I'll
probably me and you.
click on it and see. No chats yet, but um, anyways,
I'm
we are
watching and you're watching.
all right. There we go. So um, section 7. We're starting with the
I agree with your
girls.
first statement though. It seems like how can we be at section 7? Like that there's
Yeah,
only one more week
it
of this.
and I know last year we had coaches on each section for the preview. We decided to not do that this year. The episodes just got a little too lengthy. I think we're gonna have coaches on in season. I think that'll be more interesting to talk to them about kind of what's happening here and now, and kind of like talk about their, maybe their most recent games or maybe a big matchup coming up. So I think that will be that's something to expect down the road. But I feel like the fact that we haven't been scheduling coaches, it's kind of felt like just like wash, rinse, repeat every week for these section breakdowns, even though there's a ton of research and prep work that goes into each section. It has felt like it's moved like kind of in the blink of an eye because it hasn't been the scheduling of guests every week. So I don't, maybe that's the reason. Maybe it's the weather being not, there's like not snow on the ground, and it's kind of been
Right.
sort of quote unquote spring weather. So maybe it's felt like lacrosse season or something. I don't know, but I agree with you. You agree with me. Sections, like we have 2 sections left, and then we're a week away from the season. It's felt like it's gone
Yeah.
really fast.
I was talking to one of my friends who's on maternity leave, and so she made a good observation that she was like, it's giving COVID vibes,
Yeah.
because she was like, I'm
Yep.
not going to work and I'm out walking like in the middle of the day on a weekday. And she's like, it's really nice out. And like, I haven't gone on spring break yet, kind of thing. And she's like, it's really reminding me of like March of 2020,
Yeah.
that it's like that was the most beautiful spring. And so hopefully we can keep that going and it can stay nice all
Yeah.
season, because that
Oh,
was seriously, and that's, I agree, it kind of reminds me of that. Like it got nice really early
yep.
and we were all at outside and just sitting around, and I think that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, I do remember that that spring. I remember we were doing, we obviously our business got shut down, and we weren't allowed to do training, and we were doing like outside like train like we were sending out like training workouts for kids to do and trying to
Yeah.
like coach them virtually. And I do remember there was somebody, I don't know if it was to you or to me. Somebody was like, "How are we supposed to train outside in this
It
weather?"
was to me.
And it
It
was like
was a parent of a girl.
it was like
Yeah.
65 degrees out in like early March. Like, this is
Yeah.
rare, nice for
Yeah.
like, it's normally like 20 and still a foot of snow on the ground. So that I
Exactly.
will
Yeah, that was
remember
so
that.
funny.
I'll remember that COVID spring for simply
Yeah.
because of that interaction. But
It
uh,
was so funny.
section 7, on the girls, a little bit of disruption. We talked about it a couple of weeks ago. The champion of Section 7 from last season, Champlin Park, has been moved into Section 5. So we've already kind of covered them. And then, that kind of leaves, a handful of teams that it kind of makes the section a little bit more wide open, I guess, for lack of better terminology. I think there are some teams that I would say are quote unquote favorites, but you take the championship team out of the mix. I think that really, if I was in this section, I would be excited about, the prospect of having the section be sort of up for the taking.
I agree. Hand up, this is probably the least familiar section I'm with. I think, or I am least familiar with this section, is what I'm
Hmm.
trying to say. Just, I think by sheer geography, I just feel like I'm really far removed from them. They're on the opposite side of the Twin Cities, but like we don't really hear a lot of buzz about them. We know that, and we obviously had Andover coach on last year. But it's like the rest of the teams we kind of don't really have personal relationships with. We got to know the coach of the Andover group. They came out. He runs club. They came to DTA um, tournament this past fall. So it's like, other than that, I feel like I'm kind of in the dark. But I kind of like that too, because it really just lends itself to like the research and the stats. I'm not a huge stat person. I kind of go more on
Hmm.
gut. But that is kind of fun to then now read about some of the gals up in the Northwest Suburban Conference. I think a lot of them are in, um,
Yeah.
and kind of see, like you said, Champlin Park moving. I'm excited for some different colors that might come out of this section for state. Like it I wonder if, and I'm sure the source wrote, do they have any state appearances after we get out of Andover, after we get out of Champlin, no, Chisago, yeah, Champlin Park.
Yeah, Centennial, it looks like, in 2009 was at the state
Oh wow, yeah,
tournament. Um, and then, yeah, Andover's been there a couple times. Yeah, I mean, we'll start with Andover. I think,
yeah,
they're probably, uh, you know, would be, last year, I would say sort of the other kind of big gun team in this section with Champlin. So I would say if I had to pick a team that's quote unquote the favorite or the front runner, we'll start with Andover. They've been to state twice. Last year they lost in the section semifinals 9-6 to Centennial. Um, they've been a really strong program for a handful of years now. Their coach, it's Brad, right? Is that his first name?
yeah, Brad,
Brad.
yeah,
Yep. Coach
I
Brad
think
has
so.
done a great job up there. They've done a good job, building their high school program, getting girls playing, quote unquote year round. I mean, I'm sure they still do multi sport, but they're playing club. They're doing tournaments together outside of the spring season. I think that's paid dividends for them. Uh, I think the knock, quote unquote, on Northwest Suburban Conference, even though it's really strong on the girls' side, is that they've in the past not been able to schedule many out of conference games. That
Mm.
conference has split now into East and West or North and South or something. So they potentially will be able to schedule some other teams that are not in their conference. Again, that being said, Maple Grove, Andover, Champlin, Centennial, and Armstrong are all in the Northwest Suburban. So I kind of feel like their conference is just as strong as anybody's on the girls' side. So that being said, Andover specifically, last year they beat Elk River 5-4. They beat Armstrong 6-5. They beat Wayzata 10-6. Those are some key wins, low scoring games. So, team
Yeah,
that potentially
seriously.
was built on defense. They lost pretty big to Maple Grove. They lost to Centennial twice last year in the regular season and in sections. And then they lost
I
to
would love
Champ.
to see the shots on some of these games.
Yeah.
Like, we could look it up, I'm sure, but like either really intense games or like you said, maybe really
Yeah.
defensive or well played games. They're both kind of being strategic with
And I
those high
know
scores.
last year we had Coach Brad on it during the section preview, and he did mention that, his team, they had a superstar offensive player 2 years ago, I believe.
Yep.
Claire Nelson was her name. Claire Nelson is
Yeah,
that
I
right?
think so.
Um,
Michigan. I think she's at Michigan.
yeah. So I think they had a really strong offense that year. Those years they went to state, and then he felt like replacing her is like almost a near impossible task, a talent like
Yeah,
that. But he said that they were going to be built on defense, and those scores certainly show that. Uh,
definitely.
Unfortunately, they lost one of their starting defensemen. They lost 5 2023s, which isn't horrible for a big public
No,
school. But one of them is a starting defender. One of them is an attackman or attacker. Both of those girls are headed to play or are currently playing Division 3 lacrosse, and then they do lose their goalie. It looks like some stats here: 4.69 goals against, 66% save percentage, 651 minutes played. Uh, Unbelievable career. I don't know if that's it can't be a
yeah,
season minutes. I mean, that's
right.
got to
What's
be
651
yeah.
divided by 60?
Yeah, I don't know, but,
No. Well,
that's yeah,
what's like
or
an
is that
hour
10
game?
10 games or whatever? Um,
Yeah,
nonetheless, the starting goalie, hands down, really nice numbers.
yeah.
Obviously clear that she was an impact player based on these scores from last year. So, that's going to be an adjustment. However, they have some pretty good players returning. Is it Delic or Delich? 55 points last year. Ella Thorson, 32 points. Riley Klein, one of their starting defenders, headed Division 2. Another midfielder headed Division 2, Isabel Micah, 21 points. And then they do have another goalie in the 2025 class, Lucy Morgan, who did play a little bit last year, about 100 minutes played.
That's
So
huge.
got some experience. Now, is replacing Ava Bach going to be easy? No, but at least they have somebody that has been on the varsity team and seen varsity minutes versus graduating a senior goalie, a senior backup, and then having no one really
Yeah,
that's
no
taken a varsity
minutes.
shot.
Right.
So it to me, it looks like it might be business as usual for Andover in the sense where they've lost some good players, but they've also done a good job of bringing, a new group up through the ranks, and now it's their time to shine. Um, I don't really get to see a lot of lacrosse, Section 7 lacrosse personally,
Yeah.
on the girls or the boys side. So I know that I've seen a little bit of the club that they run, the Yeti Club, and they're really skilled. They play the game the right way. And so I expect a lot of these girls are probably on that team. And so, I don't know. I think they're one of the stronger team, if not the strongest team in this section, based on kind of what they get back.
I agree. And I'm trying to decipher in my own mind if it's they're kind of coming out as a front runner because I'm more the most familiar with that team as opposed
True,
to
true.
like to stats on paper kind of thing. The
Yeah,
the vibe I get from Andover, and I think it was mostly just from our interview with coach, was like the high school girls are really involved with the youth. So I feel like it's kind of like prior, like it's kind of no surprise of who you're getting at tryouts, but it's kind of what it becomes is who's going to be right for those top spots. And it sounds like they're a really tight knit community up there, like lacrosse community, as are a lot of other communities. But it seems like they're kind of cycling through. It's like you go through the high school program, you get right into the youth, and those eighth graders, ninth graders coming in are kind of already well versed of how it all kind of goes. And so, like we said, a 2025 goalkeeper getting some minutes, I love that. That, like you said, it's not like maybe who's the question, it's more of just like how are we going to get her to feel more comfortable. um but I think you're right. I like that kind of business as usual mantra for them of they're gonna be solid, and but maybe Centennial will have more to come also, um, as we read on.
Yeah, and so that kind of actually the lead into you just said it like about a minute ago in your kind of in your breakdown there of Andover feels like the team we're most familiar with, so maybe we feel like they're the strongest, but I think Chisago Lakes are the next one on this list. 15-1 last year. Um, they lost 10-3 in the section semis to Champlin, the eventual winners of the section.
The only game they lost last year.
Yeah, so
That's insane.
they were
That's
undefeated. Now,
insane.
you would most people might say, well, then why isn't Chisago Lakes the front runner? I might get crucified for this again, but I'm not in love with their schedule. Um, a lot of the teams that they're playing, they're blowing out. And then it's clear that when they got into a game against a tougher team, they struggled. Maybe they just played bad in that game. That could definitely be the case. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They are a really good team. Um, I'm hoping that I think they're a team that would surprise a lot of people if they did play more like metro teams. Even if it was just some of the Northwest suburban teams throughout the spring season, it looks like they did play Anoka and maybe Forest Lake, and they had some close wins against them. So they did have some nice wins. Um, I I do think they're listed second for that reason. I think Andover plays a much tougher schedule. However, they are not a far second. I personally believe that uh, they are very capable of winning this section. I think the talent is there. I just, like I said, kind of for me is, are they going to be battle tested enough when they get into sections? And I guess that'll remain to be seen. They did lose um, a couple players specifically on the attack side.
Yeah.
Their leading scorer, Skylar Wells, and Kiana Senni, both 43 points, 27 points, respectively. However, a nice group of girls coming back. Um, they have more returning than they lose. So it might
Right.
be one of those things where is it like going to be a scoring by committee? Who's going to step up? But they do get their goalie back, 2025
I love
goalie.
that.
And I
I
know
She's a
you're
20,
big
like,
on
so
that.
she's an upperclassman. She's an upperclassman.
Yep.
So she's going to come back in now as a junior and, ready to go.
They get their number 2 and their number 4 scorer back. So Cameron Peterson and Cameron, spelled differently, Hinch. They get a starting D, McKenna Olson, back, headed to Mars Hill, pretty nice
Yeah, you
school
don't
there
see
in
that all the time.
North
Where is
Carolina.
that? North Carolina?
North Carolina or South Carolina, one of the Carolinas. And here a little, I guess, fun fact about McKenna Olson was described as, quote, the fastest player I've seen this side of Vellner from Edina last year. She
Wow.
basically is their transition package. That is high praise, and it means that she's silly fast. So
Wow. Good for her.
someone to watch in the section, maybe a notable player to watch. I guess maybe that speed was on showcase out in the club circuit or on film, because She's headed to
Yeah,
Division Two, Mars Hill.
fun.
Um, so I'm gonna well, any other thoughts on Chisago Lakes? I'm gonna try to pull up their schedule here.
I just did. I'm trying to kind of think who I would like to see them play. Like, you know what I mean? Because I think you made a really good point that they kind of are playing maybe newer programs and kind of blowing them out of the water. Like they're in double digits.
Yeah.
Well, that Monticello was only a 2-goal game, but I
So
would like to see them a little battle tested. But I'm kind of trying. I'm having trouble coming up with like who I want that to be.
yeah,
Maybe I'm kind of thinking like a St. Louis Park or like even like a Lakeville North.
yeah.
I'd like to see them play.
It looks
Someone
like
who's
there's
in the metro, but like maybe a little bit more competitive for them. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm not saying anyone's worse than everybody else. But what I'm saying is with a little bit more history in their program, and Chisago
yeah,
Lakes may have been around for a really long time. Again, I'm not well versed, but
yeah.
at the same time, I would like to see them. And it doesn't even have to be a metro team, I guess. Just a team that's a little bit more one or
So
two games a season other than just Andover that seems to be maybe like or Champlain Park now, not
yeah.
their competition. That
Um
might be their only competition. So that's what I'm trying to like come up with and I'm failing miserably at it.
so it looks like I got their schedule pulled up here.
Yeah.
It looks like they've
This year's
at
or last year's?
this year's. It looks like they've added Rogers. They did not play them last year. Eastview, so
Oh, okay. That's a
South
good
Suburban.
one. There we
Yeah,
go.
yep.
Yeah.
They
That's
got
a perfect
Monas.
matchup.
So they got all these misses, like these big West teams or Greater Metro West. I think they have to play them twice. It looks like. They've added Blaine. Did they play Blaine last year? They did not. So that's actually a nice section matchup there.
Mm,
Totino Grace. It looks like they did not play last year, so Totino Grace has a good
yeah.
team.
Yep.
Moundsview, they did play Moundsview last year, 10-8 win against
Yeah.
Moundsview, so
Okay.
that's a competitive game there. Anoka,
Yep.
looks like they played them last year, 11-7 win. Um, they play at St. Croix Prep, so
Okay.
that's new. That's a good matchup. Monticello Forest Lake, St. Michael Albertville, it looks like is also on their schedule. So to me, it looks like if I'm looking at this as an outsider, but with a coach's eye, it looks like they felt the same way and said, let's go try to step up and play some other teams that might be a little more competition for us, because it does look like on their schedule when they play some of these other more like established like metro teams, they play like really close, competitive, good games. They are winning those
Yeah.
games. So they are a
Yeah.
good team. They are winning those games by a couple goals. And I think they would say the same thing of we want to be battle tested as we head into sections. We don't want to
Yeah.
be we want that speed to be there. And it looks like they're doing that to get better games on their schedule. So props to them.
And
Um,
also from a
they're
coaching lens, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think they're a really big sleeper team in this section. The
Yeah.
more, I kind of looked, I kind of briefed over the notes that the source wrote before the podcast, but this is the first time I'm actually like really looking at it. And I kind of was going in being like Andover is just gonna crush. But now like I'm really feeling strongly about Chisago Lakes. I think they have a nice foundation there. They're scheduling better games and they get a lot of players back. I do I do think they have a legitimate chance of being a contender in this section.
I kind of agree with you. And I also think that from that coach's lens, like 15-1 is awesome. Don't get me wrong. Like that is so fun. That's a lot of hard work. That's a lot of coming together. It's a lot of goals scored. Like you've got to come out with the win. I think from a coaching perspective, it's almost like, okay, we've accomplished what we needed to accomplish. We need more challenges to build off of. Like we need to go and play harder competition so we can learn from it, so we can teach more, variables in lacrosse and stuff. And so I agree on more than one reason of the scheduling and stuff. And hopefully they saw that, or they just that's what happened, and it happened to be
Yeah.
maybe some more competitive teams, and they get to see some other colored jerseys, which also is really great too, to kind of play a team you have. I love going into those games like that. You have no idea what they're like, and like we even on like our B team this year, we have a couple new games. Every year actually we've had a couple different teams, not just like South Suburban Conference teams. And it's been super fun because we're like, I have no idea who this coach is. I have no idea what their B team is made up of, or the third level team. And that's fun at every level.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, honestly, if I were looking at some of these new games they had scheduled, I still would say they're favored. I don't think it's like, oh, they're gonna go and like get dominant. Like, it's
Yeah.
not like that. I just think they're gonna benefit from having a little more equal competition athletically, and maybe skill wise. And I still think they're probably favored in a lot of those games because they're a good team. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens for them. Moving on, the runner up from last year, maybe the other big name team in this section, Centennial. I know I was really high on Centennial last year. Um, I I think I picked them to win the section last year, actually.
Mm.
They did make it to the section finals. They lost to Champlin Park. They have been to state once in 2009, a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I know they're looking to get back there. 11-4 last year. Um, yeah, I mean, could you argue Centennial should be maybe the 2 and Chisago the 3 based on strength of schedule? Maybe.
Yeah.
Um, uh, so I don't know.
They're losing 10. They lost 10 2023s though.
Yeah.
And the
They're
source made a note that they're um lose their top two scorers by a large margin. So that
and
I think is notable. And like I'm not too heavy on goal scorers. They get their goalie back, but I think they're Maple Grove. They lost 11-6. They lost to Champlain Park twice, 15-3 and 15-7. So Champlain Park was obviously a really big games for them. And then Elk River 14-7. I
it's funny.
I,
It's
I don't
funny.
know.
No, it is funny too that like they really struggled with Maple Grove, Champlin, and Elk River, but then they beat Andover twice.
I know
Like it's just the
twice.
way these teams match
Twice.
up.
Yeah.
They beat Armstrong, they beat Grand Rapids Greenway. That's a section competitor. Um, yeah, they're an interesting team to me. Like I said, I was really high on them last year. Um,
So they lose 10 2023s. How many of those girls started? Because if they all were like starters,
yeah,
that's almost everybody on the field besides their goalie and this D and this midfielder that's kind of left that are their notable Elizabeth
yeah,
Clow and Ella O'Hearn and their goalie Callie Cody. Like that's like a whole field of girls that now regardless of talent, that's a whole like back to a drawing board day one. That's gonna just there's gonna be some clunkiness to just learn how to play with each other.
yeah. Callie Cody was a midi, 31 points.
Oh, whoops, sorry.
And Ella O'Hearn
They
also.
lose those girls. Sorry,
Yeah,
they're coming back. Their goalkeeper.
and they accounted for like 50%, maybe more of their points. So very
Yeah.
much like two really strong offensive players.
So yeah,
Peyton,
so then what I mean, if Peyton Brenzy and Ella Weist are their only two left and everyone else was a 2023, like
yeah,
they're the last two on the field.
it would be interesting to know how many were starting, and like a lot of teams
Mm-hmm.
in high school have maybe one or two like supreme like elite level players that produce the majority of their points. That's just like
Right.
how it is in Minnesota lacrosse, like boys and girls. However, like you said, how many of the other 8 of those, they have 2 right there, and then a D. So, that's 7 remaining of the 2023s. How many of them were starters, either at midfield, attack, D, that maybe didn't produce a lot of points, but were like out there as starters, running reps with the first team at every practice, and
Yeah.
then is that what you kind of mean? Is like are
That's what
they
I mean.
replacing
Yeah. Are we
like
like scratching
like starting
like yeah,
over
they have
basically.
yeah, are we just like fielding a whole new team here? Regardless of if they were at practice and getting time and stuff, are we requiring 10 girls to
Yeah.
step into roles that are being replaced this year? It
Yeah,
would I don't know. I don't
and
know.
and yeah, and I don't know enough about the program depth and like all the
Right.
players. I don't have that deep of a look into Centennial, so that will be interesting. And I think that's sort of the reason why they're third on the list versus second. And again, you may pick them to be second. I may pick them to be
Right.
first.
Right.
This is just research that was done kind of based on initial reaction. And this is kind of the first time we're looking at it. This is all live, so we're kind of making those decisions about how we're going to rank teams as we go through it. The source felt like they were the third best team in this section based on this information, with some unknowns about who graduated, who's coming in, who how good was their JV team, things like that. Um, an interesting fourth team here, Grand Rapids Greenway. I love to see it, first of all.
I do
Love
too. I do
seeing
too.
these outside of the metro, so these greater like Minnesota programs, getting better, being relevant in the section. Um, I think they lost to Centennial in the quarters last year, but they were 11-4. Again, their record maybe, or their schedule maybe wasn't the toughest, but at the same time, I think it's perfect for a new team like Grand Rapids Greenway and they also have a
Yes.
travel
Delta
barrier as
Sky
well.
Miles, as
Yeah, so,
PNAC would
they're
say.
gonna play a lot of the other, like, Duluth and, the northern teams. I think that does hurt teams once they get into sections, when they go and play a team that's been playing, like, really heavy competition all section, but 11-4 last year. Um, the source felt like they even considered putting them in the 3 spot because of all the unknowns with Centennial that we don't know.
I felt this. I was thinking the exact same thing.
Um, that being said, they they lost 5 players. They beat Moorhead last year. So
Yep.
that's a nice win. They did lose
Yep.
to Moorhead as well. They lost big to
Close games, kind of fun.
they lost to Centennial, they lost to Forest Lake. Um, they do lose Carolyn Ashan, 70 points last year. So, that's going to be a factor. However, they get Molly Pierce and Riley Sherlock and Barry Barr, all 78, 70, 52 points respectively. They have 2 goalies that
Two
played
goalies. I love
a
that. Love
26 and a
that.
27. So a sophomore and a freshman who played last
They're
year as a
set.
freshman,
They're set
8th
for a couple
grader.
years.
So that's good. Um, I I'm I love it. I love that what they got going on, and I love to see them continue to grow. I hope they prove me wrong. I think the depth and the level of play from what they have in the regular season to what they're going to see come sections is going to be a big difference. Again, I hope they they proved that wrong. But looking at some of these scores, it kind of looks like that was the case last year. But they have some nice players coming back. They got some young players. It looks like their program is getting better every year. I like what's going on here, and I'm gonna try to pull up their schedule if I can.
I
Um,
agree, but I also disagree. And like we love to see it. And I think they're coming back stronger this year. I think last year was kind of their cute little intro, and I think this year they have enough returning that's going to make a really solid foundation. Like, yeah, I think your point about sections is good, but I think they'll be placed really high in the section
yeah.
because of their season.
Well, we're gonna find out about Grand Rapids Greenway, because they play Centennial first game,
Oh,
they play Gentry second game, and then they play Duluth, which makes sense. Anoka, they got Anoka. Then they play Brainerd Superior, Proctor slash Hairmantown, Proctor
mhm.
Hermantown, Duluth Marshall, Brainerd, Proctor Hairmantown. Then they got Forest Lake and Moorhead at the end of the year as well. So uh, they have some really hard games to start the year
Yeah.
and some really hard games at the end. Um, and I guess we'll find out, right? I mean, it looks like they're doing it. They're finding a way to make a trip down to the Twin Cities to play those games, and then playing the teams sort of in their relative area.
Yeah.
And then sections is kind of going to be, I think, a coming out party or a shell shock, or I guess we don't really know. Just kind of similar to Centennial, aside from maybe these,
Are they playing Centennial at home or away?
away. They're at Centennial. They're coming
Mm,
down here that first weekend of the season to play two games
mm.
back to back, Friday, Saturday,
Oh,
or
sure.
something like that. So, um,
Interesting.
yeah, um,
Put it on the calendar. That'll be a good test.
yeah. It kind of brings us to another sort of outer state team, Duluth, like the Duluth Wolfpack, which I believe is Denfeld and Duluth East Co-op. They were 7-8 last year. Um, they lost in a play-in game to Spring Lake Park, 16-13, high scoring game. It looks like they only lose 2020. They only lost 4 seniors. One of them was a big scorer for them. They bring back 2 goalies, just like Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Um,
Love that. Love goal keeps up in the northern parts.
yeah. It looks like maybe their schedule is better this year. I'm gonna try to pull it up here.
I would love to go on a trip to Duluth, like a lacrosse trip. We went up there in high school. Remember
Yeah.
that? It was your
Hmm.
birthday and it was
Yeah.
snowing. We took a bus and
Yeah.
we
No, I
and when
remember.
we played, did they have a co-op team or who did we play?
That's a great question. I don't
I have
remember.
no idea. And we were literally on that field. You and all your friends came, and it was like a park on Lake Superior, and it was snowing, and it
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
May 7th,
Yep.
and
Park
it
Point
was
30.
so cold.
Yep.
And of course, then we went to grandma's, rest in peace, for dinner.
Yeah. I'm not finding their schedule right now. It, according to the source, based this is their words. Based on their schedule, it seems like they could be primed for making more noise this year. Don't worry, Duluth. You're turning some heads in the state. Keep up the good work. So the
We love
source
to see it.
felt like there was some things, some moving, things were in movement and some action with them. I'm interested to see what happens. Um, Kind of moves us on to some of these other teams that I think are were struggled a little bit last year, but we'll kind of rip through kind of quick notes on them. Forest Lake, I'm curious about Forest Lake. They
Mhm.
went to state in 2019, so not too long ago.
Oh, right on.
Um,
They
I
beat,
felt like
they won their first section game. They beat
yeah,
Coon Rapids. Coon Rapids struggled last year, but they still like went into the win, and they only lost to Chisago Lakes 11-6. Like that's not a bad score.
Yeah.
They didn't get
I
pumped by
always
them. That's fine.
I always felt like Forest Lake girls were really good. I mean, maybe it was just
Yeah,
this
remember when
year.
we talked about no, we talked about them in 2020
Yep. Then we
because
first did this.
2019 they went to state.
Yeah, and we
That
first
makes
did when we first did the state or the Minnesota preview,
yep,
first time we ever did it on this podcast, it was that preseason 2020 before the season got canceled. And
yep.
Forest Lake, I do remember Forest Lake was definitely
We
on that
talked about
list.
them a lot. So they
They
must
were
have had a
on like
solid 2020 class.
they I remember them like Black Sub had like a way too early top 10 or something like that. And that
Yeah.
we didn't go section by section back then. We saw that
I think
and
we
we're
did the top team. Yeah, the top 10 teams.
yeah. Um, yeah, so
Yeah, I
interesting.
remember that now.
It looks like they lose their number one scorer. I'm gonna pull
That's
it up.
tough.
I don't have a name here. I'm gonna look it up just to give that gal a shout out. Um, I gotta go to so good news is Laxub now has 2024 season on Laxhub. Like it's like
Populated.
there's no information in it yet, but like you can select the 2024 season. And I saw they posted an article today about like how to I guess there's like has been some changes. It's not owned by Sports Engine anymore. It's like the Star Tribune owns it. So there's like a new
Mm.
email address to send your scores. So
Oh
coaches,
yeah, I saw that.
you should probably check that out. And it's like season starts April 1st. So I was like, oh my gosh, I better go in and look and see if the schedules are up. And a couple have been added, but they're still working through it. But it feels like we're getting closer um, now that they have at least the 2024 season block like ready to go. And last year, Forest Lake, Emma Hallweg, 41 points. St. Ben's now at St.
Nice.
Ben's. And she had 41 points. The next player on the team had 13. So definitely was a kind of the leading point producer. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I'll be honest though for a second. Sammy played U8 lacrosse last year for
Oh yeah.
right, and we ran into Forest Lake a couple times, like just at different tournaments and games and stuff, and like they were really good at the U8 level. So now, does that mean
I mean,
anything?
the fact that they have a U8 team means that there's enough trickle down that they've got
Yeah,
people involved to like
it
have a
so
youth program, and then U8s are usually like the aftermath. So the fact
and,
that they have like an organized U8 group is
yeah,
solid.
and like honestly, like sure, we might not pick them to win the section this year. Like it's not a personal attack. I will say though, you're right. It did really seem like they had coaches that were there ready to go. They were organized. They had good teams. Their players could pass and catch a little bit. They were trying to teach the right stuff, not just give the ball to my best player and let her score every time.
Right.
Um, it seemed like the foundation was being put into place for maybe the 2030 group, the
Yeah.
2034
Yeah.
group to be a good high school team. So
Yeah.
I will shout that out. Honestly, it felt like they were one of the more like organized and just like they were around a lot. It seems like they were playing a lot. So motivated groups, I guess, maybe for lack of
Yeah.
better terminology. So shout out to their Forest Lake Youth Lacrosse Association. Definitely have a lot of girls playing or at least trying to drive interest.
Yeah.
Um,
I love that.
Spring Lake Park 5-10 last year. They were in the quarters and lost to Andover. Um, again, they lose a couple players. They gain, they return a couple players. It does kind of feel like that same story where it's they're good with the teams that are roughly in their caliber, but when they go and play maybe some of these bigger programs that are more established, it's a struggle. again, I hope they prove us wrong. And I think I don't know. Every year there's a team that has a 5-10 or 4-11 record that ends up being like the 3 or 4 seed in the section, I
Yeah.
feel like.
Yeah.
And it could be one of these teams. We don't know enough about, aside from maybe their top players that we can look at and kind of research. I don't know what their JV team looked like. I don't know what their 14U team looked like. And that can pretty much be I think I lost Katie here. Or maybe
Specifically to Spring Lake Park, and then even moving on to Anoka, I think that it's. I said kind of both. We don't know what they have because we only are at the mercy of like the
yeah,
bare minimum of the stats and stuff. And I said even moving on to like Anoka, you set a four, and you're right. The asses kind of, you know, turn over some people. They might have a good class, but it maybe is that depth that they're lacking, I think. Anoka, same thing. They're losing their number one, their number three, and their fifth point scorer, but bringing back goalies. It sounds like they were kind of the lead gals, and it also kind of seems like again on the surface level, looking at stats, looking at their lax sub, looking at their past 2023 record, it doesn't seem like the depth is there to really make a huge wave come through this year. But again, you never know. 4-11 and whatever 5-10, they just got to get through maybe a playing game, maybe a quarter. Like you never know, they could be the ones ending up in that final game. And like you said, we don't know enough to know. We don't know who moved in. We don't know who is a sophomore and now is an upperclassman with a little bit more confidence. Um, that all goes into play. Moving on to Blaine, they lose to Anoka, so I think there we go, kind of ranking them underneath in the play-in game, only by a goal though. So I think Anoka and Blaine in this section are neck and neck. They've had 3 state appearances, 16, 17, and 18. So it sounds like they had a good class of for a while there, a couple strong
18s. Yeah.
classes. Um, and it sounds like they lose almost all of their, I mean, a whole field of 2023s, 11 of them. So again, who are we talking about that it would be nice to know if, who are we talking
Yeah.
about that
Centennial
lost?
was in
Like
that. Centennial was,
Centennial,
yeah,
like, were they all starters? Were half of them on JV? Like, how much of an impact did those 11 girls have? And are we fielding a brand new team? And that might be beneficial. That might put them in the first place for all we know. If, a bunch of sophomores are stepping up to the plate. And they were behind some seniors. Moving on, Hermantown. So did you get the Hermantown from the state hockey tournament? I
yeah,
just put that together.
yeah.
Is
He
that
calls
was
it.
that guy?
Yeah.
Does he still do that?
Uh,
Hockey hair
yeah,
guy?
I think so. He has like his own podcast now, and
Oh, he
like
does.
Minnesota like hockey. I don't. They do a podcast. I don't know if they follow high school hockey or if they do like hockey
Oh,
stories. They have a documentary out right now actually where
oh,
they're going into like different associations and doing like documentaries on association hockey. And I think it's on YouTube. It's called The Association, I believe is what it's called. They just did Edina. I think they went to
oh,
Warroad,
cool,
um,
cool,
maybe Grand Rapids. So like
cool.
it's kind of cool. And uh, from what I was told by
Yeah,
somebody who knew him personally, he was an old like ad exec, like at a big ad agency. So
yeah,
he has like a marketing advertising background. No surprise. I think he
sure,
was a copywriter
yeah,
by trade. So it makes sense that those hockey
cool.
hair videos are so funny. Um, and I keep losing Katie here. Um, I don't know. I don't know if she dropped out, but anyway, yeah, that's where I got Hermantown. He calls it Hairman Town for those hockey hair videos. It's also where, if you listen to the Section 6 episode, I got for Edina when I said the small.
I did a double take every time, and I was like, the Hawks. I was like,
Yeah.
who is that? And
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, it's Hermantown. But that's funny. We got to look that up then. I
Yeah.
love the behind the scenes sports stuff,
Yeah. Yeah. So,
documentaries.
yeah, Hermantown Proctor, kind of similar story to a lot of these other ones. They had, 4 wins, didn't post grad years, so kind of more of a wait and see with them. Duluth
Yeah.
Marshall, love that they have their own program. They were 1-6 last year, so they were a brand new program. They did not play in the
So
MSHSL
did they just
sections.
like opt out? Did they just like
They
opt out of sections?
it must be. They must have just been like a JV team.
Yeah. Oh,
Um
maybe that's a good way to put it.
From what
Yeah.
I from what I was told, so this is third hand now. So I was told this by somebody who talked to their program. They're just still in the phase of growing the game, trying to get girls to play lacrosse. So very new at their school.
Yeah.
And
That's
so
awesome
yeah,
though.
no, I love it. And honestly,
That's a great way to be able to just like do it with no pressure. Like you get to play a schedule and like that's that.
and it's great to see when we get to the boys here in a few minutes. This will be the first year, as far as I know, or maybe it was in the past and now it's back. Duluth Marshall boys have their own team as well, so they have the Duluth Wolfpack, which is East and Denfeld, the 2 public schools, and then Duluth Marshall is a private school. I'm pretty sure.
Yes, they
Um,
are.
and they have their own boys team now as well. So it's cool to
Cool.
see the game is growing in Duluth. I think it's always been close, and they've kind of taken the next step. Hilltoppers, great mascot name, great brand. I'm on board. Hilltoppers, Duluth Hilltoppers, right?
That's Marshall. No, they're right.
Ma-
They're Denfield. Denfeld.
Marshall's the Hilltoppers. Um, Yeah, and anyone else? Did we miss anyone else? Oh, looks like
Coon
Coon
Rapids.
Rapids, 0-14 last year, obviously not a banner year, but, only had 4 2023s on their roster. So,
Yeah.
a
We
year
don't
better.
know.
I honestly think that their record will improve, with another year.
Yep.
Again, props to Coon Rapids and Spring Lake Park girls for both having their own teams. On the boys' side, they're co-opt. So,
Oh, right on.
whoever's leading the program at Coon Rapids for the girls' side,
Yeah.
uh, shout out to you.
And Spring Lake Park got through the first like play-in game. So it's like, hey, you get that extra little week of practice or whatever and a couple
Yeah.
days and I
I'm
love
gonna
that.
pull it up here. They deserve a shout out. The coach, if so, the coach is Jeff. There's no last name. Head coach is
Okay.
Jeff.
Coach Jeff.
Uh,
Coach Jeff, I
oh,
love it.
Michaela Lampert and Neil Sawyer.
Yeah.
They are the girls Coon Rapids coaches. Shout out to them, um, just for having their
A
program on the
team.
boys.
Yep.
They can't get enough boys on their boys team, so they are co-op. But they do have their own girls team, which is awesome. So,
That's awesome.
and shout out to them. And it looks like they didn't graduate a lot of players, so they're potentially, have
On the rise.
a team with a little bit more experience this year. That wraps up the girls breakdown. I guess we have to do our picks. I don't know. Do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I I will go first.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 4-1 or 1-4.
4-1.
How we think they're gonna get seeded, or how
How,
we think the
yeah.
section's gonna end.
How,
Like,
it's based on seeding. Like, who do you think is going to be seeded first in the section tournament? Like, how are they going to be ranked at the end of the regular season? Basically,
mm,
by their coaches.
I'm gonna say fourth is Centennial. Third is Grand Rapids Greenway. Second is Chisago Lakes, and first is Andover. I was gonna flip those, but I think I'm gonna keep it. It I don't like that. I like saying how is the section gonna be?
Then,
Who's going to state?
all right, who's going to state from this section?
I think I think there'll be an upset, and I think Chisago Lakes will get the lower seed, but I think they'll beat Andover again.
There you go. You heard it here first.
Okay.
Katie thinks Chisago Lakes will win the section. Um, but I had a similar thing last week in the boys section 6. I put PL boys
Yeah.
third in section 6 because they always lose some games early, right? And
Yep.
everybody
Yep.
decides that like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
that their
Yeah.
run is over. But I still think
Yeah.
they're going to win the section. I've I've bet against them for long enough, and I'm always
Yeah.
wrong. So I'm just that like they'll be seated last and they'll win the section because it happens every single
Sure.
year. So
Right.
so
Right.
you can feel that way about a
You're
team,
right.
uh,
But their
just because
seating might be. I think that's how
the
the seating's going to be. But I
yeah,
think there's going to be an upset in
okay,
this section.
yeah.
And that's how we talked last year. Like we kind of talked last year, like there's going to be an upset. Number 3 is going to go or something like that. So we did that a lot more last year. I feel like.
Um, I'm gonna go Duluth Wolfpack at 4.
Wow. All right.
I'm gonna go Centennial at 3. I'm gonna go Chisago Lakes at 2 and Andover at 1.
All right.
I'm you know me, I'm big on strength of schedule and just schedule in general. When it gets to that section, I think there's value in that. Again, not throwing shade at anybody for how they schedule, but I think the battle tested teams um, have a little bit of a competitive advantage when they get into these tighter, more competitive games. That being said, I'm agree with you, Katie. I'm not ready to say Chisago is going to win the section. I still think personally Andover is the favorite, but an upset in this section is very likely. And it very well could be not the 1 and the 2 team in the
Yeah. Oh
section
yeah.
final.
Oh
So,
yeah. Oh
um,
yeah. I feel that. I feel that.
and so I think, yeah, I think that, yeah, PMAC is not here yet. Um, he probably stopped at Old Southern Barbecue on his way home, to be honest with you.
He probably did
And
because he
picked,
went straight from work.
yeah, so he probably stopped at Old Southern Barbecue to pick up, something, maybe a bowl,
Uh,
maybe some wings, maybe a smokehouse 2-pack, 2-meat combo. And so I wouldn't be surprised if he rolls in and he's going to be eating barbecue. But
I don't think he's going to be joining us because he hasn't even left Prior Lake yet.
oh wow, okay. So
So he's still in a meeting. But if he did, he should go over to Old Southern Barbecue because I can tell you, I didn't make dinner tonight. So he was on his own. He went from work. Um, yeah, we were at a fundraiser last night, and an avid listener suggested that our next little outing should be a little gathering at Old Southern Barbecue.
hmm,
Um, and I agree. It's kind of I think of it for catering, but I kind of forget you can actually go there and eat.
yeah.
And
Uh,
I love that. And they
yeah,
have multiple locations. They don't just have Shakopee. I actually have to go up that way in Edina um, one of these days because I have to go up to our jeweler up there and get my
there you
ring
go.
fixed. And I was like, it's right up there. That's where we should go and eat. Maybe we'll do a little outing tomorrow, PMAC and I, a little day date
There you
and go
go.
to up to Edina.
Yeah. I'm curious, what fundraiser were you at last night?
Charlie's back.
I think I lost Katie again here.
Oh, Charlie's held a fundraiser. For we were like 50-50. I don't really like leaving my house. People who know me well know that I'm very much a homebody. I don't really like to socialize. So the fact that I podcast is kind of a not what my personality really would be for. Um, but at like noon, I texted PMAC. I was like, I don't really want to go. I just kind of want to stay at home. And he got home and he didn't even take off his shoes and was like, we're going.
There, yeah, no, I think I'm losing Katie here a little bit. I don't know. I might have her restart her computer. Looks like it's her. Um, yeah, I think I don't even know where we're going with this. Oh yeah, the fundraiser they were at for
Like
Charlie's. I didn't
teeny
get
wimpy
it.
tacos.
Katie,
There
I
you go.
missed a bunch of that. I think your internet's going
I
in
was
and
just
out.
I think it's yours.
Oh. Yours, you have the yellow dot and I have the green dot the um on the stream here, but I mean, yeah, maybe it is mine.
Oh, you're gonna have to get a refund on that. Anyways, we got tacos at Charlie's. It was for Girls Lex. Shout out to
Mm.
all the restaurants that do that, where they just like from that portion of time give you like 10% or whatever of their proceeds.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I think it's a good idea.
so it was fun. But I saw one of our listeners and they were like, we should, because I was like, we got to do this more often. And she was like, we got to go and do it at Old Southern
Yeah.
Barbecue. And I was like,
Yeah.
we got to go there. Like,
I know
I think of,
there was definitely talks of that at some point about a live show
I think we should
there.
still bring that talk back. We could maybe plan that for next week.
Yeah, maybe.
The final episode. I mean, like the final preseason episode.
Yeah, we have one more episode before the season starts. So maybe it can be like the preseason kickoff
Yeah.
episode. I'm gonna go plug my internet direct in. I need a few minutes. So we're gonna take a short break here. And
Go
we'll
check
be
out the Old Southern Barbecue menu and all their sauces you can buy online.
All right. I'm going to try switching my internet from Wi-Fi to LAN here. Are you there?
We're there. I think we're all here.
All right.
Hopefully we'll fast forward it tomorrow. We'll have to tell them that time. Cut that out. We can't cut it out.
Uh, Now going on to boys section 7.
Also brought to you by Old Southern Smokehouse, Old Southern Barbecue, couple locations. Great to cater and to go and eat. We kind of forget they do have multiple locations. You can go and, of course, dine in. It's great to pick up, but it's also great to grab a friend. And no idea if they have patio seating at any of the locations. Do they have it? I don't think so at Shakopee, but
Yeah, I'm not sure.
we're almost at patio season here, so grab a friend or grab a bowl and walk the lake or something like that. It's nice out.
Yeah. Section 7 boys, kind of similar to the girls, where I feel like maybe it's up in the air a little bit. I don't know. Not a super deep section similar to the girls, but definitely some interesting teams. Last year, the Chisago Lakes won last year the section, so they represented the section at the state tournament. So we'll start with them.
I always think it's interesting when both the boys and the girls program is like really successful.
Yeah.
And
Um, yeah, they've been sort of on the rise for the last few years. Very similar to the girls, that I said about the girls is that they just haven't been able to schedule teams of their caliber regularly. They're playing a lot of teams where they're winning games 20-0, 19-1. They're just, and I think that hurt them a little bit maybe in a couple of years, but they did go to state in 2021. They gave Prior Lake all they could handle in the state tournament. 2022, they did not go. Centennial won in 22, and then they won it last year in 23 with a really good, really strong, really deep 2023 senior class. So that is sort of, we're going to start with them. They're 16 and
oh
3
wow.
16 and 3 last year. They were sixth in state, I guess. They lost their first game, won the second game, and then lost the consolation game. So that would technically make them sixth. So a really fantastic season last year for them. I think as you kind of see this, Katie,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any team in the state of Minnesota that lost the amount of amazing production that
Yeah.
Chisago Lakes boys lost. I mean, this group must have just been together forever.
I
Uh,
mean, sheer just number of players.
yeah,
What is that? 10 players?
and this
More than 10
2,
players?
3, 4.
And they are like their top players.
This
Like
is
they're fielding a whole new
yeah,
team. Them and the Centennial girls got to get together because it might as well be each other on the field.
yeah. This is 9 people right here. There's 2 that were like I think starters that are returning, so it's almost their entire starting lineup. Caden
Yeah.
Mellon, 94 points last year. Mason Messicomer, 20 points, but he was 88% faceoff. Really good faceoff guy. He's division. He's playing Division 2 somewhere. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Division 3. But he's playing in college. Max Olson, 47 points. Aristotle Phillips,
Yeah.
fantastic name,
What a name.
34 points. They lost 3 of their 4 starting poles and their starting goalie. So
Yeah.
nearly their entire
Yeah.
defense. They do return Ben Kirkow, 60 points. Dane Gibson looked like he was a starting pole, and Dominic DeRocker, another great name,
Yeah.
backup goalie. He will be back as well. Didn't get a lot of time, but did get some. Dylan Peterson, their goalie, I think was between the pipes since he was like a freshman. So,
Sure,
um,
sure.
really interested to see what happens. Farmington actually plays Chisago Lakes first game of the
Ooh,
year. We are
is it?
first game of the year for both teams. It's that first Thursday that games start.
Hmm.
We're at Chisago Lake, so we're going up there. I'm
Let me
excited.
know
Kind
where
of,
it is
yeah,
because I have no
yeah.
idea.
It's just straight north, 35,
Mm.
straight north. Um,
Like you're going to Forest Lake?
yep, I
Mm.
believe. Yeah. I maybe I should fact check that, but um, I just yeah, it's north. It's a long drive from Farmington, but kind of like you said about your B team, it's nice to kind of go and play other um I don't know, other cities, I guess.
Yeah, it is.
Other teams that you don't normally see, even like even teams that maybe you don't play, but like you don't even get to see them because they're
Right,
not even anywhere near your
right.
radar.
It's not the colors normally, or like you kind of go in blind of
Yeah,
we don't know. I don't know their coach. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl. I don't know if they're gonna have a huge roster or
yeah,
a small roster, like stuff like that. It's kind of fun.
yeah. So, just for FYI, Chisago Lakes, I believe, is the high school. It's multiple cities that make up
Oh,
Chisago Lake School District. Chisago City, if you go straight up 35 and get to the split, like you're going to Duluth, you hit Forest Lake, then you hit Wyoming, then you go a little east and you're in Chisago
okay.
City and Lindstrom. I had a
Oh
couple
yeah,
friends from
okay.
college that were from Chisago City and Lindstrom.
Mm,
If you keep going a little east, you're at St. Croix Falls, and kind of getting closer to that Wisconsin border. Um, if you kept going north a little bit more, you'd be in North Branch, where there's an outlet
oh,
mall,
okay.
I believe.
Okay.
So,
There is. Yeah.
um, anyways,
Nice.
yeah, if you're going
Nice.
up to Duluth, you go right past Chisago Lake, so it's North Metro, kind of outer North Metro. But back to Lacrosse. Um, I think there's no doubt that Chisago Lakes has built an amazing program over the last few years, kind of coming out of nowhere in like maybe 2019 roughly. It was kind of
Oh
like all of
wow,
a
yeah.
sudden they were looking really good and kind of starting to compete for Section 7. And then 21 they broke through, uh, and they've been one of the better teams now for the last couple of years. Um, they beat
I know
Hilmer.
we're just like on the first team, but this is not boding well for them for my rankings. I'm just gonna say, like that's hard to fill.
Yeah.
Just like a really big star player is hard to, big shoes to fill. I don't know if I'm gonna rank them that high because of
And
their sheer
I'll
quantity.
I'll just give you and the listeners here sort of the transparency about this. So when the source does the girls, they put it in order of what they think their ranking is. When I've done at least on this one for the boys, I just went based on last year's finishing. So I
Got
just
it.
like if the team was the 3 seed last year, I put them third. So this has no like um predisposed, I guess, ranking in my mind.
Mhm.
I just kind of went down the list. Um, so kind of heading into, yeah, I mean, Chisago Lakes, they've done a lot. Again, they might have a great up and coming class that we don't even know about, and they'll be able to
Well, you're
replace all
right.
these
You're
guys.
right.
But
Yeah.
that's a really big group of players that were very successful, that did it together, kind of took the program to the next level. Not a lot returning with a ton of varsity experience. So we'll see. I'll tell you what happens on April 11th. I mean, they may kick our ass and I'll
Yeah,
be like,
seriously.
hey, didn't matter that they lost all those players. Um, Number 2 seed from last year, Centennial, 11-5. They've been one of the dominant teams in this section over the last, I mean, handful of years since 2017, maybe.
Mhm. That sounds right. I feel like
Yeah,
Centennial's always been in it from
they
in my opinion.
yeah, they have probably 2 of the most dominant offensive players in the whole state on their team,
Oh,
in Cole Sherman and Logan Adams, 71 points, 74 points respectively last year. Uh, there is a pretty big drop off in production after them. So I think that's going to be, for me, that's their kind of the key to success. I think Centennial has the talent and the athletes. They had a state tournament caliber hockey team this year. I know a couple of those guys play hockey. So they're athletes. They have all the pieces. I think it comes down for me a little bit is they rely so heavily on those 2 guys to score all the goals that if teams like really focus on them and it gets like can somebody else win a game for them? I guess is
mm,
that's my question. And it sounds like there's a couple guys that are a little bit under the radar. This Kellen Crumwide or Crumweed, he only had 19 points last year, but it's supposedly he's pretty solid. This Solomon Marshall, 2025, so didn't get a lot of time last year, but 19 points. They get a couple of their starting poles back. And then this Gavin Cunningham is sort of, according to sources, a player to watch for Centennial. He's a 26, so he's a freshman last year, so probably didn't play a ton, or maybe had a role. He might fill you know, some of the maybe graduation, but as you can see here, they only really lost 2 players that really contributed
yeah.
last year.
I think that's a good point of like how are they going to do if a team scouts them and shuts those two guys down. However, I something we keep talking about is those scheduled games. Their lost games were really pretty close games. Besides
Yeah.
Benilde, they were really not like blown out by
Yeah.
anybody. Maple Grove was a 1 goal game. Matamidi was a 1 goal game. Chisago Lakes and Sections was only a 2 goal game. And so that I don't know. I feel like those teams are good enough that they would have scouted those two guys,
Yeah.
and it
No
seems
doubt.
like they got through. You know what I mean? So I think yes. So, but I'm actually high on them that like this would be their year to go, and they went 2 years ago. So Brohl and Logan for sure would have, if they would have been on like the tournament team, they would have been freshmen. So they might have been like at the right
Yeah.
sophomores.
Sophomores.
So they would have been there maybe playing. And it's like, I think that goes a long way of like, we've been there. We know how long, how hard it is, what we got
Yeah.
to do to get there. And now they're seniors that I'm actually kind of putting them high on my list because of not only because of the caliber of players they are, but it seems like they were just under the line last year a little bit.
Yeah. I think they're going to be a really good team this year. And like you said, just because teams scout them doesn't mean they're going to stop them. Easier
Oh
said
yeah,
than
you're
done.
right. You're
Both
right.
phenomenal athletes. Broll's headed to Marquette. Logan, I don't know if he's
That is
committed, but
Brohl short for something?
I have no idea.
That's
I
an
do not know him
interesting name.
personally.
That's an
And I'll
interesting name.
shout out Team 36 bias, Trenton Kramer, goalie, super underrated, sneaky good goalie. Also, I don't know if he's going anywhere right now, but they got he played a lot last year, and I think
Yeah,
coming back another year of varsity, really steady player, great teammate, good kid. So they got some stability in the back end too. Katie loves when they return goalies,
I
so
do. I'm
that's a
high on
big
Centennial now, the boys.
yeah. Um, Moving to the Duluth Wolfpack, they were the 3 seed last year. I feel like they've been a scrappy team. They've been really close, but just haven't been able to like break through against the Chisagos and the Centennials of this section. Um, Last year they beat White Bear Lake 12-11. They had a lot of close losses, a couple blowout losses, but to really good kind of top end teams. So they're at least trying to schedule
We
um,
love that. I like
good
that.
games.
I know
Um,
Prior Lake had like the best time up there, and some would say that that was like the turning point in their season. Me, I would say
yeah,
that. I
yeah,
said that that was the moment that, because PMAC even was like, yeah, we were started out so bad. And I'm like, it's when you went to Duluth that it all turned
Yeah.
around. Just a
Yep.
little pizza, a little nip in the air. It got the boys going.
Yeah, yeah. They graduated Aaron Carlson, who was a 60% faceoff guy, Mason Smith, who was scored 41 points last year. They do get back a couple of their really high scorers, Gabe
Yeah.
Polasek, Hayden Clore, and then this Connor Kiergaard, their goalie, super underrated goalie. I haven't seen him a ton, but what I have seen of him, really, really quick, good goalie, maybe one of the more underrated goalies as well. And so, they got some stability, kind of like Centennial. They got some stability there on the back end. They got some guys that can score. They at least try to schedule some top end games and get themselves ready for sections. And yeah, they could be a sneaky team this year.
I think so. They're high on my list.
Yeah. Blaine is the next team on this list. Uh, they they were really good a few years ago, 5-6 years ago. They were going to state. Seemed like every year. Kind of had a dip. Last year, Alex Johnson took over. He was on the podcast on the Section 7 episode last year. Really good coach. Really good former player. Played college lacrosse at Loyola, Maryland. So he's got Division I experience. Was a Blaine kid, ended up going to Culver Academy. So he has some really interesting like lacrosse background experience. I think that's great for the program. It seemed like they were close last year, but not quite there.
Yeah,
They
really
lost.
close games with
Yeah,
some of their losses that were
yeah.
really
I mean,
close.
yeah, they held Armstrong, Maple Grove, Centennial all to under 10 goals. It just looked like maybe they had a hard time scoring. I don't know
Hmm.
if that will change this year. It looks like they lost a couple good goal scorers, Caden Boons, and Caden Parent. Both had, Parent had 30 points. Boons had 24 points, but only in 9 games. So a couple top scorers. They do return Michael Aber, 75% Fogo, probably the best Fogo in the section. This Robert Cruikshank, 28 points last year. And then, according to sources, a
Mm,
really good group of freshmen and eighth graders are coming in. So, like 28s and
yeah,
27s. It sounds like the youth program has been doing a really good job of getting kids to come out for lacrosse and build. So
sweet. Any word on the goalie? They get a goalie coming back?
that's a great
I could
question,
I could
Katie.
look too myself.
Um, no idea about the goalie situation. Um,
So they might be maybe a couple years out. Maybe they're gonna kind of go another, like, 6 and 8 ish, give or take one on either side
mhm.
season, and then maybe it sounds like in 2 years, uh, we'll see them kind of rising back to the top.
I'm looking at the goalie situation right now.
They're not completely out for me.
Yeah.
They're I
Goalie really well, actually a pretty solid goalie last year. I'm not going to say like elite level, but very solid goalie. Rylan Dickinson played 14 games. He was a junior last year, so he is a senior. I
All
probably
right,
should have
all
put
right. So
that
he's
down.
returning.
So
He's returning.
they have players coming back at key positions here. I just can they score? I mean, they're gonna get the
Yeah,
ball with Michael. They're gonna probably be fine between the pipes.
yeah.
Interesting. Blaine, the more I look at this, very interesting. This section is, I think Centennial personally is probably like the top caliber team in this section,
Mm.
just based on like how many guys they have coming back. But now, like, there's a pretty big battle for the rest of the pack, and
What
teams
did you
that could,
say about the girls that it could be a not top 4 team
yeah,
that we see in the section final even or like come through. Like that could just be that might be one upset. And then
yeah,
the rest of the teams are so close and it's kind of
yep,
flip of the coin that the a 6th, 7th ranked team could be the one coming out of the section, which is kind
yeah,
of cool cuz it'd be fun to see like I love to see other colors other
yeah,
than like
yeah.
red.
Um, Anoka is the next one on this list. I didn't do a huge deep dive in some of these other teams, but now that I think about it, um, this section is way more wide open than maybe I thought. After Centennial,
Yeah.
but Anoka beat Blaine in sections last year, so that was interesting. Lost to them in the regular season. Um, they struggled against some of the better teams, but did okay against some of the more mid tier teams. So like I know they were really good in like 2016 ish,
Mm.
2015, and going to state, and they had a really good group of kids. Kind of maybe dipped a little bit, but I don't know a ton about this program. I love their mascot, the Tornadoes.
The tornadoes.
So that is a bump for them on that. And in that regard, they seem to always, in my opinion, they seem to always have like they'll lose a weird game every year and then they'll win a weird game every year. Like they're just
Mm.
a scrappy group. I think they beat Centennial 2 years ago on like the first
Mm.
game of the season. And Centennial ended up being a Final Four state team.
Oh,
So
wow. Yeah, weird.
it's just like, okay. And then it like, and whatever, but they lose Devin Hirsch, who was their leading scorer. They lose Tanner Peterson, so their top two scorers are out, but Ethan Massman is a 2025 and um he had 24 points last year. Ben Iverson is a senior. He had 22 points. So they do have some guys coming back. Uh Dominic Grubbs took a lot of faceoffs for them. He was only a
How many
10th
seniors
grader.
did they have?
I don't know.
Mm.
Um but this Dominic Grubbs was about 50% last year and he was only a sophomore, so he's a 25. We'll look
So it
at
sounds
goal.
like Anoka and Blaine could maybe even be like neck and neck. Like it's going to be kind of a close, probably a
Yeah.
really good matchup for them in their section tournament.
So interesting situation here at the goalie position.
Mm.
They had three goalies all play last year.
Oh, wow.
So
All
they
the
had
same
so
grade?
they had this Hunter Bacon. He was a 10th grader. He played 194 minutes. Nate Thompson was a ninth grader. He played 318 minutes. And Isaac
Okay.
Newcomer was a junior. So he's a senior this year. He played the least 112 minutes.
Mm.
So I don't know if there were injuries, if there was just they're all kind of comparable.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have a lot of options at goalie. So they're another team that has a goalie coming
Set.
back.
Yeah, goalies are not a problem in section 7.
Yeah.
Let's spread the
Um,
wealth a little bit.
yeah. So Anoka, interesting team. The next on the list is Champlin Park. Again, they were really good like a few years ago, back when Coach Clem
Yeah.
was there. I know they were in state one year that I was there with Blake. So they were a kind
Mm.
of a top end team at one point. 5-10 last year. I think they have a really good face off guy. Let me look. Jared Zabel. He was only a sophomore last year, so he is a junior. He was a 63% faceoff guy. Took 167 faceoffs, had 26 points as well. So really solid player there. Christian Capitan. He was a senior, so they lose him. He had 28 points. Uh, let's see. Braden Strasser, they get him back. He was their leading scorer, 48 points. Gavin Bosch was a sophomore. They get him back. He was number 2. So they get 1, 2, 3, 4. the top 4 scorers they get back. One of them is a face-off guy / midi.
Hmm.
Um, and then Caden Bosch, their goalie, was a senior, so they lose him. They have 2 other guys that played though. One was a freshman, and one was a junior. So they have some
Yeah.
options at goalie. They have a face-off guy. They get their top 4 scorers back.
So maybe
Uh,
they have a little bit more of a 500
they
record this
yeah,
year.
I think this team could be better this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, um, kind of similar to like Blaine and Anoka. We'll see
Hmm.
what's coming up, and see kind of what the younger players are gonna do. Um, Hermantown Proctor was 5-10 last year. Andover 4-11. Forest Lake 2-12. We're going kind of long at this point. I'm not going to deep dive into them. A couple of shout outs though. Actually, Grand Rapids Greenway was 5-8 last year.
Yeah. Not
Uh,
bad.
so a lot of these teams are kind of building. I think they're probably
Yeah.
middle of the pack in this section, but are slowly improving. Um, on Spring Lake Park Coon Rapids Co-op, there is a really good goalie, Tommy Scramstead. Probably maybe the best goalie in the section. And so I think, he's a player to watch if you are interested in, this, or you live in this area and you are interested in these teams. He's a kind of a notable player to watch in this section. And then a couple
Yeah. Not,
shout out.
goalies are not a problem in Section
Yeah,
7,
yeah, they are not a
boys or
problem.
girls.
Couple shout outs. Duluth Marshall boys new in 2024. Cloquet Esco Carleton boys new in 2024. So
Awesome. That's awesome.
two new teams in the Duluth Cloquet area. Again, they've been really doing a great job promoting the game. And it's paying dividends.
Yep.
They're growing. They're getting more kids. Other schools are adding lacrosse. Duluth was one team to start. Then Hermantown Proctor started a team. Now Cloquet Esco Carleton. Now Duluth Marshall has their own team.
Yeah.
Uh,
Splitting up a little bit.
yeah, and it's starting to become like there's a bunch of teams up there now to play, to have a legitimate conference, a legitimate game schedule, which is really cool. Now if you add Moorhead and you add Grand Rapids Greenway and in some of those other teams, I know there's some travel there, but there's a good amount of teams now that you can play in northern Minnesota.
Yeah. You can at least come. You could, and some of the sections they play each other, or conferences they play each other twice. You could put together a pretty good section or pretty good season with 5 games. It's not going to be super intense. I hope for the new teams that they don't have to do a section thing either. They can just kind of play their schedule, and I mean they can if they want to, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good way to start and kick off. Is just do your
Yeah.
schedule and let that be that.
Yeah. Boys picks,
Yeah,
section 7.
I
Do you
wrote
want
mine
me?
down.
Okay. You want to go
I
first?
can
You
go
want me to?
first. Number 4, I think, will be Anoka. Number
Okay.
3, I'm gonna go with Duluth. Number 2, I'm going to Chisago Lakes, and 1, I'm gonna go to Centennial. I think they're gonna get back on top. But like we said, after that one, the the section final might have been because of an upset, and it could really be anyone's game in that section final.
I don't disagree with you on that. I will. I'm gonna go Blaine 4.
Mm,
I'm gonna go Chisago Lakes 3. I'm gonna go Duluth 2. Centennial 1.
good picks. Good
I agree
picks.
with you. I think on paper,
Chisago's losing a lot.
Centennial is the best team in
Yes.
this section. Now,
Yes.
that's why you play the game. That's why you have a
Hmm.
section tournament. crazier things have happened, but I
We
think
have
since
no idea what Chisago has in their arsenal,
yeah,
or
no,
Duluth, for
and
God's
I
sakes.
probably just, kicked myself, giving Chisago bulletin board material for the first game of the season
Yeah,
against
I
Farmington.
know.
So
I
I should
know.
probably move them up to 1. Um,
Yep.
but like you said, I think with in just to justify, because I know we did it with the last group, just because I put a team ranked 3rd in the section seeding doesn't mean I don't think they can win the section. And
Yeah, I think we should
Chisago
have made
Lakes
that.
and
We should have
Chisago
made that
Lakes,
distinction in section 1.
well, whatever. This is a live
I
show,
know.
and it doesn't really
I know.
matter. And
I know.
people can interpret our show however they
You're
want,
right.
and
You're right.
90% of the people only see the Instagram post of pics,
I
and then
You're
they're
right.
like,
And
"Oh,
I agree.
like
You don't like us.
you picked us number 2 in section
You
6,
think we're bad?
the deepest
Yeah.
section in Minnesota history. You think we suck?" It's like,
Oh
"No,
yeah,
like,
you don't
did
think
you?"
I got flack for that, for putting Prior Lake there? There was like death threats in our group chat. There wasn't,
Yeah,
but again, I was like, is it going to motivate you, or is it just going to make you mad? And the people who actually listened were like, I can't disagree. It
yeah,
was brought. The only thing that was brought up was the that we beat Rosemount
eh,
in like double digits in the regular season, but like I was like, you got to listen. But you're right; they can interpret whatever they want, and just because they're ranking, we know those coaches section seating meetings last for 5 hours,
yeah,
longer than these podcasts last. We can't imagine how all the coaches in the room trying to vouch for themselves. But you're
yeah,
right, we could put whatever on paper and we still got to play in Duluth, or who knows who's going to come out on the top.
and here's the thing with Chisago in my case here is you lost your entire starting lineup of seniors. You
Yeah.
have a lot of new players. I've this is my Nostradamus moment right here of like trying to predict the future. I could see Chisago struggling for maybe the first half of the year because a lot of these new players coming in
Yeah.
um that are like I don't know, like they just haven't played a lot of
Who
varsity
knows?
minutes.
Yeah.
Um I'm gonna move PMAC into the stream here. I think you're in.
Welcome. Welcome. Thanks for having me.
Better late
Uh
than never.
yeah, but
Just in
Not
time for
my
the
choice.
boys' picks.
Not
Just in time
my
for the boys'
choice.
choice. It's like you're just coming to the Instagram post, just coming for the pics and nothing else. It's like you and everybody on Instagram
That's all
having
people
no
care about.
background.
Hey, I would rather have been on this podcast than be in a board meeting for a good 3 hours. That was
It started at
not what I thought I signed up for.
6:30. Yeah.
6:30. It
um
is 9:45.
yeah, but to finish the thought on Chisago, I think I could see them being the type of team where with so many new players, maybe they don't get a good seed in sections, but they figure it out in June
Yeah.
and they go on a
Yeah.
run like once things start to click. So that's kind of my thought process there of like they might kind of lay in the weeds a little bit and be a 3 seed and then go nuts in the playoffs. So um that's my final answer. Um
KP
lot
Mac, you have 5 seconds to pick your picks for section 7.
Did you already? Did I literally miss everything?
We are
All the
done.
We're
breakdowns?
signing off in 3 minutes. We're signing
We
off.
are literally doing picks for boys.
I don't even. I didn't get the breakdown though with you guys.
Well, then just got to go blind from your gut.
Well, let's see here. Centennial's my 1. Blaine's my 2 because their coach came on last year. Centennial 3? Or no,
You said they were
sorry.
your one.
Sorry. Chisago Lakes 3. And then I'm going Cloquet. Are they the Lumberjacks?
Yes, they are.
I'm going the Cloquet Lumberjacks
It's
because
Cloquet, Usco, Carlton. It's all three of them.
it's
They're co-op.
Cloquet. I'm going the Lumberjacks. I hope they
think they're
got some
purple and
sick
yellow.
purple uniforms
Yeah.
this spring. I love the brand, and if they get half their hockey team involved in this lacrosse thing, it'll work out okay for them in this section. Cloquet, I think, is going to come out of nowhere in 2024 and shock the Section 7 nation.
If
Cloquet.
So I think you had almost the same picks as Ted.
I missed all Ted's picks, so who did
little
Ted have?
We're a little different. I had Blaine 4,
Okay.
Chisago 3, Duluth 2, Centennial 1. So
Yeah, no
we're
one
pretty
had
good.
Cloquet.
Yeah,
So
Cloquet.
yeah,
No one had Cloquet.
no one had
I
Cloquet.
hate to
So
break it to you on
Cloquet
the
goes on a
girls'
run
side.
here.
I hate to break it to you on the girls' side. A team that was brand new last year, like, opted out of the section tournament. So we hope they play in the section tournament.
You think Cloquet is going to opt out of a game? Cloquet is one of the grittiest cities in
Is
sports
that
history
casino
in Minnesota.
technically in Cloquet?
Yes. So I was gonna say if Cloquet is a top
Esco
4,
Carlton.
Cloquet, Esco, Carlton. Yeah, it's like Elk River Zimmerman. We don't want to forget the other part of
We
it.
don't want to forget
Cloquet,
everybody else.
Esco, Carlton. If they make the Final Four in Section 7, we need a sponsored episode by Black Bear Casino, and I believe that's actually in Carlton.
Grizzly. What's the country station up there? Like the Wolf or something like that?
It's probably the Railroad Pass, but the sister company.
Black Bear Casino. Hopefully, we can get a sponsorship from them, and then shout out
that would be so cool.
When I was coaching this whole story will kind of cap us off here about Cloquet, Esco, Carlton, specifically Cloquet because that's where I was. When I was coaching Bantam hockey back, I think it was 2008 or 9. Right after I got done with college, coaching hockey with Dad, we had a tournament in Cloquet, and they had a lumberjack-looking man, huge beard, flannel, running the concession stand. Best breakfast burrito I've ever had in my life. The thing was like 2 pounds. It was the eggs and the sausage and the hash browns. It was on a griddle. And
okay, Gold needs to go to that concession. We need to start going to hockey
and this guy,
stands.
I think he was the hired gun for Saturday mornings at the Cloquet rink, knowing that it was going to be busy, and he was like breakfast griddle lumberjack making his lumberjack burritos. It was so good. Like 5 of the kids ate one before like 8 a.m. game, and they all had to like go to the bathroom halfway through the game. I don't remember anything about that tournament except those breakfast burritos, like early morning at the Cloquet rink. So shout out to that guy if he's not listening, but if somebody knows
Black
him,
Bear's a nice place. That would be so sick if we got a sponsorship from Black Bear.
Breakfast burrito, Cloquet Ice Arena.
Yeah.
Shout out to that guy. I
gotta make my girls' picks. Andover 1.
Or you could just do the post like everybody else.
What?
You could just text it.
All right, Andover.
You made your picks, right? Like an hour ago?
Yeah, but you weren't here.
Andover.
I don't care. The people want to know what
Okay, 1 is Andover.
These 4 picks are sponsored by Old Southern Barbecue. Andover.
And it's how they're seated, remember?
Yeah, I'm
like
seeding
not how the tournament's going to be because I keep thinking it's how the tournament's going to end.
I am
Let him make his picks.
Andover 1, because if Old Southern Barbecue isn't up in Andover yet, I think they should open up a spot in Andover. Growing community, wagon of a sports town. They love winning championships. Hockey, girls lacrosse hasn't won yet, but they have had a wagon of a girls lacrosse team. Andover 1. Grand Rapids, is that where that one really cool tournament is?
Yes.
Yeah,
at the resort.
The resort. So because of that, I think they're doing it the right way. They're hosting great events. They're developing the youth. They're all about fun. They're all about the experience. They're all about growing the game. Grand Rapids, I think they're going to take
Greenway.
Grand Rapids Greenway. I think they're going to make a big leap in 2024. Grand Rapids Greenway is my 2. Chisago Lakes is my 3. They've always been in the mix. And my sleeper at 4. This is an inside joke. It's not a joke of a pick, but it's an inside joke with some of my friends. Coon Rapids is my 4. Coon Rapids.
What was 3? I apologize. Chisago?
Chisago.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what I
Chisago.
thought. Yeah. That Greenway pick that's a bold pick.
Who did you guys pick? Who did you guys pick?
Not bad though. They're in the mix.
No, they are good. I like it. I'm not. It's bold and it's a good pick. Katie had Andover, Chisago, Greenway, Centennial. Okay. I had Andover, Chisago, Centennial, Duluth.
Duluth is a good pick too.
Isn't Grand Rapids Greenway like the Wave?
I think Greenway used to be
like the Greenway.
The Greenway.
Aren't they the Green Wave?
Shout out to Grand Rapids and shout out to the Prior Lake Bantam AA. They're going to the Bantam AA state tournament in Grand Rapids this weekend. Shout out to the fellas, a bunch of 9th graders, the Bantams, who are 9th grade are freshman lacrosse players. So we'll be working with them here in a month on the lacrosse field. But before that, they're going to go do a little state tourney hockey up in Grand Rapids. Good luck to the fellas and shout out Grand Rapids.
Yeah.
Listen in the car ride. I think if they start from the beginning, they should probably be about there and by now, by the time they get to this point.
A good send tonight. We got PMAC on for the final part. We got one section to go, and then
maybe we'll do live at Old Southern Smokehouse.
Maybe we'll do live at Old Southern for the final kind of pre.
Did we get an invite?
No, not yet. No.
We gotta ask.
We that was just, I guess it was suggested by somebody that Katie talked to.
We talked about it years ago, or months ago.
Long story short, if you use DTA 15, you get 15% off anything on their website. I know I need to kind of revamp the rubs and sauces,
and the sausage,
and maybe the sausage too. The hot links, those are
hot
fantastic.
Links are good. Those are good.
But
you should just get some of those for Easter too.
All right, I will.
I mean, we're not coming to that Easter, but
yeah, get your Easter hams. That's what we're gonna do. Just easy peasy. Lock it in, and yeah, Section 7.
Check it out this weekend
gonna be a wild one.
Lunch.
Yep, and we got one to go. Section 8, and then we got a week
As
break.
Always, send us DMs if we're talking about your team and you're one of the teams that we're like, we don't really know. Give us some info.
Yeah.
Give us some insider info and some extra stats. Who's coming back? Who left? What's the squad saying?
Yeah. That's all we got tonight, and we'll see you next Thursday night. Hopefully live streaming and Section 8 next week.